So, I go, Dad, put it away, forget it, who cares? This world is going to burn, this world is not our home, let the legal system do what they want. Let's keep preaching the gospel. And he's done that consistently throughout it. He's led over 400 men to Christ while he's been in prison so far. So he's doing it. Obviously, there was a target on him for that. He was a voice out there. And so was he targeted? Ultimately, yeah, he was targeted. Just like they're going to target anybody for something like that. So ultimately, was he targeted? Yeah, I have no problem with that. Was it because he was serving God?
Like, I shouldn't be saying this, but Stephen, I'm telling you, this is what went down.
I know.
We were like ride or die. It was not even like a question. Oh,
and the thing is 3/4 of it was made up.
What was made up?
3/4 of what Mark and Cindy had everybody rallied up over was made up.
I interviewed Mark before I knew who the fuck he was. I thought he was some psycho white supremacist.
You were right the first time. Well, not the supremacist part.
And then he admitted that white supremacist shit. It's in his past, but
what do we got there, Joseph? Turned down for what? I don't know.
Now, what would you do if your government literally locked you away like an animal for crimes you didn't commit for 8.5 years of your prime? Well, you'd probably be bitter. You would probably be filled with hate. You may walk away from the faith, or at the very least, you would end up as a Sunday pew-warming Christian that's not very involved in the tenets of our relationship with the Lord. Kent Hovind was different, though. Kent Hovind came out and he hit the ground running. He was never more ready for ministry than he was when he was released after 8.5 years in prison.
Well, this is it, son. This is it. 9 years in the making. You got a lot of people out there that have been praying for you. Thousands and thousands of testimonies coming in. People that have seen your tapes. And you're ready to get back out there, I know.
We are headed home now. We're in Mississippi. This Saturday, July 11th, will be the 9th anniversary of when the indictment was issued against me. It's been a long, interesting...
And you guys are all invited to the party this Saturday.
Amen.
at 29 Cummings Road. So
my BOP, they give you this for free to go home.
you gotta be. I think they spent a good $3 on that.
And
one.
these Chinese tennis shoes, yeah, they're good, $1.50. So I'm all set.
Well, we got some different clothes for you in the car.
Oh, you do?
We got some new clothes for you.
Oh man. Okay.
Oh man. Well, thank you guys for all your prayers. Anything else you want to say to them?
Well, it has been an amazing journey. God has been really good. I can see why so much of the Bible is written from prison. It just gives you a totally new perspective on 1,000 things, you know. And it's coming to the world. It's happening now in many countries, and it's Christians in America are so not ready for what's about to hit that this is. I think it's. I'm glad in 1,000 ways that God let this happen. It hurt in 1,000 ways too.
Now, this is not to say that there were not hiccups, as there often are. There were definitely hiccups. For instance, wife number one, Jo, was so terrified of the IRS and the government trying to come after them again that she would end up filing for divorce. Now, Kent loved her very deeply, and by all accounts, Jo also loved Kent Hovind very deeply, and they shared 40 wonderful years of marriage together. But Jo did not want to walk around with the swinging axe above her head for the rest of her life, and without going into too much gruesome detail, poor Jo had a very hard time of her stay in prison. Florida, Pensacola, being the place where Kent and Jo were living at the time, is a no-fault state. So, unfortunately, Kent Hovind was not able to stop the divorce from going through. It was granted. And after 8.5 years being locked away from your loved ones and being kept away from the embrace of a woman, Kent Hovind would desperately be lonely, and believing that it is not good for a man to be alone, Kent Hovind decided to move on. And not only did he move on from Pensacola, Florida, and he relocated in the beautiful Lenox, Alabama. Things are going quite well. He is reshooting and updating a lot of his old intellectual property after starting over from scratch with nothing but the clothes on his back and an RV to live in. He contacts an old friend, Mary Tocco. Mary Tocco is an advocate against vaccinating children, and she had done a lot of work on the matter. She's actually known as one of the foremost experts on vaccinations for that side of the opinion. And to make this segment a little shorter, Kent Hovind and Mary Tocco would begin a brief courtship. They would eventually get married. Mary Tocco would relocate to Lenox, Alabama, and they would begin a marriage together running Dinosaur Adventureland. However, there were issues. A lot like Jo, Mary would constantly be in fear of the IRS, and it's something that caused a lot of conflict between her and Kent. Kent, seeing that you can play a little loose sometimes, maybe with some rules, and Mary wanting to cross every T and dot every I, even when it didn't require a cross or a T, out of fear that she, like Jo before her, would spend time in prison if the IRS ever decided to come sink their fangs back into the famed evangelist Kent Hovind ever again. Mary Tocco reasonably wanted to protect herself. She went as far as requesting that in exchange for her staying and helping run the ministry, Kent Hovind establish multiple children of her onto the board. A 5-man board with her children running the majority of it. And she also wanted to implement other changes that made Kent Hovind uncomfortable. Not that they were unreasonable, but they made him uncomfortable. This brings us to a place where there's conflict. There is a separation, and because Kent Hovind is not willing to basically turn over running the entire ministry to her family so that Mary Tocco can feel secure in her living circumstance, Kent Hovind denies the request. And it turns into an ultimatum, which Kent Hovind rejects, and Mary Toko leaves Kent Hovind. Kent tries to get Mary to return, out of reasonably fearing that she too will spend time in prison like Joe before her. She opts out of the marriage very desperately, and Mary Toko, again, out of reasonably...
Oh, and the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, Lord, I want to be...
Hello, my name's Kent Hovind. I'm at Dinosaur Adventureland in Lenox, Alabama. We have 5 lakes on the property. We're going to build a Christian campground here. We've had 9 baptisms so far in this lake right here. If you want to come join us, come on down. If you want to help us build what we're building, go to drdino.com. Thank you.
Now, a while passes, and Kent Hovind is now in a position where he is very lonely. He's running Dinosaur Adventureland. He is stressed out, and he is sad for companionship. And he feels like he was robbed by Satan. He feels like he was robbed of a family by the government. And he's lonely. And he's afraid that after all these years, he'll die alone. And due to the fact that the first wife left him, and he was no longer in bondage to her, due to that fact, biblically, and also due to the fact that Mary Toko left Kent Hovind, so that he was not biblically bound to her either, we were introduced to Cindy Lincoln. Now, Cindy Lincoln is a huge stumbling block in the entire story. And I'm going to have to explain why.
Welcome to our Science Center, where God gets the glory for his creation instead of evolution, because we are sick of that. Our kids...
Okay, so Cindy Lincoln was a friend of Mary Toko. She lived at Dinosaur Adventureland, and she was a volunteer at the ministry. When Kent finally decided he was ready to start dating again, and he wanted to find a Mrs. Hovind for growing old together with...
Paradise in the beginning. It was the Garden of Eden. It was beautiful. Everybody would want to be there.
Cindy Lincoln volunteered her services as a wife to marry Kent. And oddly, Kent said yes, and he ended up married to Cindy Lincoln. Now, Cindy was a very kind wife for a year, and she was also a really good human being when she wanted to be, and she was a confidant for a good while, even to myself. But Cindy Lincoln also had some very dark issues. For instance, Cindy Lincoln was not well. Here's an example.
Just leave?
Yep.
Why, I've got nothing to be ashamed of in anything I would say.
If you're back to the recording issue,
I'm going to have to record for my protection, Cindy.
leave!
This is my house.
Leave!
No, this is my house.
Leave!
I don't want to leave.
Leave!
I'd like to get some resolution.
No, you don't.
Yes, I really do.
Start out by recording.
Yes, I'm recording right now. I have to for my
You
protection.
do not have to. That is an insult from the get-go.
You can record our conversation.
I don't want to. You won't leave when I want.
Well, you continually called me a liar
Oh,
this
shut
morning.
up. There's not a single text that says anything about it.
Oh, you were yelling out of the bathroom while I was walking out. Liar, 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 liar. Weren't you when you were getting in the shower this morning?
It was.
You were.
Unfortunately, due to some of these episodes, which were always sporadic and you were always unable to gauge or control or even offset, Cindy Lincoln frankly became unmanageable, and Kent Hovind had to, by request of his legal advisement, had to start recording Cindy.
With the same power that raised Jesus from the dead. Just ask for your guidance, Lord.
And due to the fact that he had to record her, it led to this incident.
understand why you let the bitterness rule in your heart.
Because you are ugly!
What have I done ugly to you?
Why are you recording?
Because listen, I have to protect myself.
That's a lie!
You know, I have to protect myself.
That is a lie! Get out! Get out! Get out!
This is my house!
Get rid of the damn phone!
What are you doing, Cindy? Why would you jump on me and grab me, Cindy?
Now, I have a really interesting perspective on all of this because I actually know both people involved in the situation. And after leaving Dinosaur Adventureland on bad terms in 2020 with my family, I ended up becoming friends with Cindy Lincoln, and I would take her side on all of the matter. And her and I would plot to try to destroy Kent Hovind. We would go out of our way to find recordings and audio that she had illegally obtained of Kent. We would go through checking audio that Cindy had illegally obtained of Kent, and we would take things out of context and we would upload them to YouTube channels to make it public domain information that we could then share on public YouTube channels and we could use to try to destroy Kent Hovind. That was part one. Part two were the interviews. So we tried to gather as many former disgruntled volunteers as possible. We coached them into telling very heavy-handed, one-sided stories of events. So not actually lies, but very one-sided stories of a telling. And as I've heard it before, half a truth presented as the whole truth is no truth at all. What Cindy Lincoln and I did was wrong. We painted Kent Hovind to be a monster that he was not. And I ended up having many issues with Cindy Lincoln over time, and Cindy Lincoln would completely turn on me. Cindy would make Facebook posts because I was friends with Kent Hovind. Cindy would make YouTube videos exposing parts of my testimony, and she would go as far as reaching out to people's friends and families on their Facebook accounts, something she even did to Kent Hovind's wife, and she went out of her way to try to ruin everyone, taking vengeance for herself, stealing vengeance from God. That's how mentally ill Cindy Lincoln had become. And that was just the start of it. Finally, after listening to 80 hours of audio from Cindy Lincoln illegally, secretly recording Kent Hovind, I realized that after 80 hours of listening, Kent Hovind was not a bad husband. Kent Hovind was not a bad man. Kent Hovind was not a bad person. Kent Hovind was not even a bad pastor. Out of all the times that Cindy Lincoln called him out of his name, out of all the terrible things that she said and did to him, he never called her out of her name. He never raised his voice to her. He never told her to get lost. He never threatened to divorce her. Kent Hovind was kind. Kent Hovind was compassionate, and Kent Hovind did not know he was being recorded. That's something we can't forget. Cindy Lincoln, on the other hand, acted like a screaming banshee, and she did know she was recorded. But she just couldn't help herself. Cindy Lincoln couldn't control herself. Welcome home, Dr. Dino. So, Kent Hovind is free. Kent Hovind is reunited with his family. though be it for a very short time, which is heartbreaking. But things are looking up for Kent Hovind. He is getting his friendships back. He's getting recognition back. He's reestablishing his ministry, and he's ready to hit the ground running, as we said earlier. There were great times, like this.
Tell us a story. What in the world happened?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, brother.
And this.
Hello, this is Rudy.
Hello, this is Kent Hovind with nobody saying this is a call from a federal prison. Do you want to take it, yes or no?
And this.
What's up, guys? This is Gabe. Today, I've got Kent Hovind right here. He is going to speak on
The pulpit, the platform.
And this was a good time, too, for Kent.
Hi, friends. This is Coach Dave Daubenmeier. I'm sitting with my friend, Dr. Kent Hovind, who recently, as most of you know, has been delivered from 9 years inside of jail. Back out on the streets, doing a lot of ministry here in the Columbus, Ohio area this weekend. But I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to sit down and find out from Kent Hovind's own lips just exactly what happened in this fiasco that he's been through. There's a lot of misinformation out there about.
There were also the bad times. There were situations with Eric where we won't go too deep, but there's disputes with ownership of properties that were lost and reacquired during the entire arrest ordeal. And then there were the incidences with the wives.
Welcome to our Science Center, where God gets the glory for his creation.
We are in Lenox, Alabama. We are at the new location of Dinosaur Adventureland, and where the old Dinosaur Adventureland was just an acre or better, the new Dinosaur Adventureland is much, much larger. Where the old Dinosaur Adventureland was a beautiful small park in the middle of Pensacola, Florida, the new Dinosaur Adventureland was 147 acres, 17 lakes and ponds, fishing, swimming, ATVs, and a real tour that would blow your mind. God had increased Kent Hovind in such a Job-fashioned way that it was mind-blowing. It was so awesome to see the dream of Dinosaur Adventureland go from a little neighborhood in Pensacola, Florida, to half the town of Lenox in Alabama. You couldn't make this up if you tried. Kent Hovind is at Dinosaur Adventureland, and he is saving souls. A year passes, and he decides to put out a fleece before the Lord. Since Cindy Lincoln left him, he again is not in bondage, and he tells the Lord to have a wife jump in the boat. In comes Camp Mom, in comes Sandra Hovind.
So, you can start by telling us your name and how you know Dr. Hovind.
Okay. And should I be looking at you?
You can look at me.
Okay. Joseph always yells at me. My name is Sandra Hovind, and I met Kent. He had visited a church, and we got all his VHSs back then, and he's like, copy him and pass them out. So that's what I did. My family fell in love with him. My sisters, my mom. They passed it all out, and that's basically how I met him.
Kent finally has the wife situated. He has the ministry blooming and blossoming, and it's turning into something powerful. He's getting back on channels. He's being interviewed. Kent Hovind is becoming a household name again.
For this series, we're going to have to tangle with many of these subjects on a larger scale later. We're also going to be debating the pre-tribulation rapture versus the post-tribulation rapture. But we have a question that have come in that I think only Kent is qualified to answer. Where did God come from?
Wow. Well, I was asked that question in a debate. I've done 141 debates with atheists, and I was at Embry-Riddle University, south of Daytona Beach, Florida, Daytona Beach. And a kind of cocky atheist said, I got a question, where did God come from?
Then the crazies came, the Mark Stoneys, and others. The drama started. The missing boy that was never missing. The lies that are still being propagated to this day that are so ridiculous, they're not even worth addressing. Things about missing bodies and things that you would think you would only see on a Netflix documentary. Missing bodies and bones and femurs and storage sheds full of bodies and bones. The most bizarre, made-up stories you'd ever think up, and propagated by nut jobs like Mark Stoney.
Nick and Mark should make God videos. Both good. So is Cindy. We're good, Cindy. All right, all right. Brett is 6 foot.
It was getting out of hand. It was honestly becoming a headache, and thankfully that time is coming to a pass. Kent Hovind is leveling up, and Dinosaur Adventureland is getting huge. Souls are being saved here, and people are getting baptized in such a rate you'd never believe it. God is doing big things, and we're excited to be a part of that. Mark Stoney is a unique case. Mark Stoney is articulate and he's intelligent, but he's just smart enough to not be smart, but rather dangerous. Mark Stoney was a volunteer at Dinosaur Adventureland for a couple years, and he was, for all intents and purposes, a good guy. Mark has some redeemable qualities. He's not a terrible person, but he is a terrible liar. And he also is very mentally unstable, as I think this audio that we're going to share with you will clearly dictate.
I mean,
That was a
before he
while.
got
That was like in 22.
Before he was arrested, they were trying to get him away where someone wasn't going to go and shoot and kill him.
Oh yeah. They tried to get him to Texas.
Stephen, Mark Stoney and I were about to get on a plane. Like, there's so much stuff people don't realize. Like, it's so complicated. Like,
What were you about to get on the plane for?
To kill Mark.
Coming to take justice themselves, a posse for the
Because Stephen,
Hovind
at
crime.
that point, Chris was still scheduled to be at DAO. Zaire's family was about to shoot them up. They went to get justice. They were going to kill them.
Now look,
Stoney snitches them out, calls the police to save Chris Jones. And Mark is like, I don't want Zaire to get in trouble. I'm going to go do it. We're going to go kill this mother. And I was like, dude, let's go do this. Like, let's take him out, because it's not just, I don't know. There's a lot more to this that you guys don't know. Like, it's not just everything that was on a YouTube video. Like, I shouldn't be saying this, but Stephen, I'm telling you, this is what went down. Like,
I know.
We were like ride or die. It was not even like a question. Oh,
And the thing is 3/4 of it was made up.
what was made up?
3/4 of what Mark and Cindy had everybody rallied up over was made up.
I interviewed Mark before I knew who he was. I thought he was some psycho white supremacist.
You were right the first time. Well, not the supremacist part.
And then he admitted that white supremacist shit in his past, but like, I don't know. The tone of this conversation is all off because I'm in a really weird mood. I'm going through like some shit in my life. And I'm trying to share information with you to be cool to what anyone else in this, if this was public, would be like, from lore, he's supposed to be on the good side. Why is he telling this information to the bad guys?
I mean, this is news to me that you and Mark were going to get on a plane to kill Kent Hovind and Chris Jones.
Do you want me to explain? Do you want me to explain explicitly what happened?
I mean, is it a felony for me to know? I don't want any felonies, Adam.
I don't know what that means.
Like, I don't know if this is legal.
How so? Like, if I tell you, what do you mean? Explain how it would be a felony.
I don't know. You know what? I'm just going to shoot from the hip. Tell me about who were you guys going to murder, Adam?
That's not what I said.
Okay. So
I think
tell me. You tell me.
I think you may have misunderstood what I said.
You have my full attention, I swear to you.
You realize if this is recorded and gets out, I'm going to have so much, like, I could die from this.
Okay, well, when you reached out, I was excited. I didn't
Steven,
think you were going to be telling me about murder.
You know that we can share secret information without it leaking. Like, we've already.
Yes, we have.
We're on the level.
Okay, so I think we didn't understand you were trying to just share. I think what it was is you and I didn't understand he was just trying to share inside information with us. So we've been on defense. But I think he really just wants to share a bunch of weird stuff that happened. Am I right, Adam?
I'll be honest with you, Stephen.
I would like that.
We've had multiple conversations where somehow you catch me on a day where I had some kind of thing and I have to like take medication for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get in this weird mood where I have no filter. I could get on YouTube right now and just whip out my, like, I am in a weird mood where I cannot filter my thoughts.
We will not go live.
And I have a compulsion. I have a compulsion to just go and find a live thing and like interact with people. You know what I mean? Like similar to being drunk.
Were you going to murder Kent or Chris?
I was not going to murder anyone.
Who was Mark going to murder? Was it Kent?
Steven, this is like so risky for me to just straight up say this. Okay, can I just say what happened?
Yes.
Zaire's family, I think it's like stepdad and Zaire, were like, we're gonna go roll up on this motherfucker and shoot him. Right?
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
Mark that he blurted that out publicly.
Publicly.
He fucking niched it out publicly.
Yep.
When that happened, Mark's reaction to that was he called the police and said, you guys have to protect Chris Jones because Zaire and his family are trying to kill him. He's a snitch. And he's trying to protect Chris Jones. Then that same time, Mark was freaking out.
You were telling us that Chris Jones was about to be 86'd by Zaire's family. Mark called them and said, hey, you got to protect Chris because they're about to 86 him.
Okay. So, and again, I would never reveal that publicly, but Mark said that out loud publicly.
Yep. I remember.
So it's not me revealing this. This is what Mark said. Mark was freaking out. And he was getting a plane ticket. He wanted to go do what Zaire and their family was going to do so that they didn't get in trouble. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm going to go do it so that Zaire doesn't get in trouble. But he's also trying to protect Chris Jones. So it's like, I don't even understand what's going on. But then Skylar talked him out of it. He's like, your daughter, you got to think of your daughter. You can't do this. He was like freaking out. Mm-hmm. And Skylar convinced him not to do it. Mm-hmm. And then if what you're saying is true, then Mark and Cindy were like, okay, well, let's get a plane ticket to get Chris away. to save him. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I know. It's
And yet,
peculiar, isn't it?
and yes, when Mark was like, I'm gonna get the guns. I'm going over. I got a plane ticket, and I told Mark, like, dude, I'm right with you. What do I need to do? I'm coming over right now. And then Skylar had talked him out of it.
Skylar was the voice of reason?
Yeah. So technically, yeah, I was like, about it. I was down. I was ride or die. I was like, I'll fuck with you and do this. Like, I'll fuck murder. I'll go take out a pedophile. I don't think that's murder.
So it was Chris. It wasn't Kent Hovind.
Well, I don't know. My suspicion is that Mark Stoney wants to kill Chris Jones and Kent, but it doesn't make sense if he's protecting Chris. So maybe he doesn't want to kill Chris.
It is odd. Just Kent.
Steven.
Uh-huh.
Mark hates Kent Hovind. I don't care what he says publicly. He's not going to say publicly what really happened. That's why he wants to kill him.
This is the crowd that Cindy Lincoln uses to rally against Kent Hovind. This is the mental stability of the people starting all the rumors about Dr. Kent Hovind. It's important that you guys understand the mental weakness and sickness and ineptness of Cindy Lincoln and Mark Stoney and all of their group. None of them are mentally sane people. None of them are mentally inept. Let's evaluate that. The Mark Stoney leaves Dinosaur Adventureland. He's currently living in Washington. He's plotting Kent Hovind's murder along with Adam Lohr, and they are talked out of it by a friend, a mutual friend of everyone's.
Oh, that makes me so mad. I can't believe you did that, Kent. Man, I tell you what, and I'm gonna make an open threat here of violence. So no, actually, I'm not gonna make an open threat of violence. But if I ever see you, Kent, if I ever see you, you don't want to see me. Trust me, you don't want to see me.